Rome, 1st century BC. A city of extraordinary wealth, ambition, and danger. For centuries, Rome had been a republic. There was no king, and political power was shared between elected magistrates, assemblies, and the Senate. At least, that was the idea. Because Rome was changing, and one man was about to push that system further than anyone before him. His name was Gaius Julius Caesar. Caesar was born into an ancient patrician family, but his path to power was anything but guaranteed. He was ambitious, intelligent, and remarkably skilled at understanding people. He built alliances, cultivated popular support, and spent enormous sums advancing his political career. But Caesar wasn't simply interested in joining Rome's elite. He intended to rise above it. Roman politics was a dangerous game. Caesar advanced through the traditional offices of the Republic, eventually becoming consul in 59 BC. Together with Pompey and Crassus, he formed an informal political alliance historians call the First Triumvirate. 3 extraordinarily powerful men, each helping the others pursue his own ambitions. But Caesar still needed something that could transform political influence into lasting power: military glory. In 58 BC, Caesar began a series of campaigns in Gaul. Gaul wasn't a single country. It was a vast region inhabited by numerous peoples with different leaders, alliances, and rivalries. Over the following years, Caesar's legions fought across much of the territory. The victories brought Rome enormous wealth, and they brought Caesar something even more valuable: an army personally loyal to him. But Roman expansion eventually faced a formidable opponent. Vercingetorix, a leader of the Arverni, succeeded in bringing together a major coalition of Gallic peoples against Caesar. He understood that confronting the Roman legions directly was dangerous, so he used mobility, scorched earth tactics, and the landscape itself against them. For a moment, Caesar's conquest of Gaul was genuinely threatened. Then came Alesia. In 52 BC, Vercingetorix and his forces withdrew into a fortified settlement on high ground. Caesar surrounded them, but he knew that another Gallic army was coming to break the siege. His solution was extraordinary. The Romans constructed 2 enormous defensive systems, one facing inward, trapping Vercingetorix inside, and another facing outward, protecting the Romans from the relief army. Caesar had effectively placed his own army between 2 enemies. The fighting was desperate, but the Roman defenses held. The relief army was driven back, and the people trapped inside Alesia were running out of options. Vercingetorix surrendered. The organized revolt collapsed, although Roman campaigning in Gaul continued afterward. For Caesar, Alesia was more than a military victory. It made him one of the most famous commanders in the Roman world. Caesar now possessed wealth, prestige, and battle-hardened legions, and that frightened his political enemies. Pompey, once his ally, had moved closer to Caesar's opponents in the Senate. The fragile political balance that had protected Caesar was disappearing. Rome now faced a question far more dangerous than anything Caesar had encountered in Gaul. What happens when a successful general becomes more powerful than the political system around him? The Senate demanded that Caesar give up his military command. Doing so would leave him politically vulnerable and potentially exposed to prosecution. Caesar faced a choice: obey or challenge the Republic itself. In January of 49 BC, he made his decision. He marched toward a small river separating his province from Italy, the Rubicon. A Roman general was not permitted to bring his army into Italy without authorization. Crossing the Rubicon with troops therefore meant rebellion. Caesar crossed anyway. Ancient tradition later associated the moment with the phrase, "The die is cast." There would be no easy way back. Rome was entering civil war. Caesar moved rapidly through Italy. Pompey and many senators withdrew, eventually regrouping in Greece. What followed was not Rome fighting a foreign enemy. It was Romans fighting Romans. Legions that had served the same republic now faced each other across the battlefield. The struggle would decide not simply who controlled Rome, but what Rome itself would become. In 48 BC, the decisive confrontation came at Pharsalus in Greece. Pompey's army was larger, but Caesar's veterans were experienced, disciplined, and fiercely loyal. Caesar won. Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was killed soon afterward. Caesar had defeated his greatest rival, but winning the civil war didn't restore the old republic. It concentrated even more power in Caesar's hands. Back in Rome, Caesar introduced significant reforms. He reorganized administration, founded colonies, expanded the Senate, and launched public works. His calendar reform created the Julian calendar, whose structure still influences the calendar we use today. But his accumulation of political power was increasingly controversial. In early 44 BC, Caesar received the title Dictator Perpetuo, dictator in perpetuity. For some Romans, Caesar was the strong leader capable of restoring order. For others, Rome was moving dangerously close to monarchy. A conspiracy began to form. Among the senators involved were Gaius Cassius Longinus and Marcus Junius Brutus. They believed Caesar's growing authority threatened the Republic. On March 15th, 44 BC, the Ides of March, Caesar attended a meeting of the Senate. The conspirators were waiting. Inside the meeting, the senators surrounded Caesar. Then the attack began. Caesar was killed by members of the very political class he had dominated. But one of history's most famous lines probably wasn't spoken. Et tu, Brute? There is no reliable evidence that these were Caesar's final words. The phrase became immortal centuries later through William Shakespeare. History and legend had begun to merge. The conspirators expected Caesar's death to save the Republic. Instead, Rome descended into another political crisis. Caesar remained enormously popular with many ordinary Romans and soldiers. At his funeral, emotions erupted, and another figure was already emerging from Caesar's shadow, his adopted heir, Octavian. Octavian joined forces with Mark Antony and Lepidus. Together they formed the Second Triumvirate. Their enemies were defeated, including Brutus and Cassius. But the alliance didn't last. Octavian and Antony eventually became rivals themselves. Another civil war followed, and this time the winner would transform Rome permanently. Julius Caesar was never a Roman emperor, but his legacy was everywhere. His military campaigns reshaped the Roman world. His political career exposed the weaknesses of the Republic. His reforms survived him. Even his name became a title of rulers centuries later, giving us words such as Kaiser and Tsar. Caesar had died, but Caesar's influence had only begun. Octavian eventually defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra. In 27 BC, the Senate granted him the name Augustus. He became Rome's first emperor in all but name, while carefully preserving many outward forms of the old republic. The Roman Republic had given way to a new political order. Caesar hadn't created the Roman Empire by himself, but his rise, his victories, his dictatorship, and his death accelerated a transformation that changed the Mediterranean world forever. I'm Max, and this is History Telling. Empires, battles, and famous names are only part of history. What really matters is understanding the choices, ambitions, and consequences that shaped the world we inherited. If you enjoyed the story of Julius Caesar, subscribe to History Telling. Because history isn't just told, it's brought to life.